Okay, so this is the moment they've been begging for. Now hold up, before we crack this whole thing open and rip the tent off the biggest circus that reality streaming has ever coughed up onto our timelines. Understand something, every single week these people beg for attention. They set the stage themselves. They light the fuse themselves, they hand out the popcorn themselves, and then they act shocked when the whole block comes running to watch the explosion. Well, Blueface, Chrisean Rock, Jaden, Alexis, and every last member of this sippy cup circus general's crew wanted the smoke. So they got it. And I'm telling you right now, before this video is over, you're going to see receipts, you're going to see footage, you're going to hear the confessions in their own voices, and you're going to walk away asking yourself one question. One very uncomfortable question. How in the world is any of this still being allowed to happen on a live streaming platform in the year 2026? Hit that like button before we go one more inch into this, because every single like on this video is one more spotlight on a story that these people have been trying to spin, twist, and rewrite in real time for months. And if you hit subscribe, you just doubled the pressure. You just doubled the accountability. You just doubled the odds that little Junior gets treated like a human child instead of a prop in somebody's kick-stream monetization strategy. And that right there is the whole reason this channel exists in the first place. Because somebody has to be the adult in the room. Somebody has to be the voice that is willing to look directly at what these platforms are broadcasting and call it what it is. Where things stand with Blueface today is not where things stood with him yesterday, and it is nowhere near where things stood with him a week ago. This man has become a moving target, a walking headline generator, a full-time content factory whose only product is chaos. And Chrisean Rock? She is riding shotgun in the passenger seat of that same broken-down clown car, one hand on her belly, one hand on her phone, one eye on the door because she knows any minute now the next scandal is going to walk right in and sit down next to her. She is due any day now. Any day. She had a false alarm earlier this week, checked in at 1 centimeter dilated, got sent home from labor and delivery because she was not progressing past the threshold they need to admit you. And while her body is trying to bring a whole human being into this world, her whole personal brand is trying to convince the internet that she still knows exactly who put that baby inside her in the first place. Let me repeat that. Chrisean Rock is due any day, and there are now, count them, at least 3 separate men who have publicly stepped forward to claim they might be the father of that child. 3. And Chrisean Rock, God bless her, just took a polygraph test to prove them all wrong. And the results? The results are the reason we are all here today. The results are the entire reason this video exists. And the results are about to blow up in Chrisean Rock's face, in Blueface's face, in the Zeus Network's face, and in the face of every single person who has ever handed this circus a dime of their attention. Now Chrisean Rock is not stupid. Chrisean Rock knows exactly what game she is playing. Chrisean Rock knows the cameras are always rolling, the clip merchants are always harvesting, the algorithm is always feeding, and the Zeus Network is always cutting the check. So when Chrisean Rock decided that the way to shut down the paternity rumors was to sit down, strap into a polygraph machine while pregnant, while 8 to 9 months pregnant, and answer yes or no questions from a man whose credentials have already been publicly torched by his own former colleagues, Chrisean Rock did not do that because she was worried about the truth. Chrisean Rock did that because content is money and money is the whole entire point. And the ringleader of this whole freak show, the man behind the curtain, the sippy cup circus general himself, Blueface, sat back all week, watched her do it, laughed about it on stream, and cashed the checks anyway. Because that is what Blueface does. Blueface does not respond. Blueface does not correct. Blueface does not clarify. Blueface just waits. Blueface lets the fire burn. Blueface lets Chrisean Rock walk herself into the flames on her own 2 feet. And by Monday morning, Blueface is back on his stream, back on his throne, back on his script, acting like the entire weekend never even happened. That is the pattern. That has always been the pattern. And once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Once you spot the rhythm of the cycle, you start noticing it in every single week. You start counting the beats. You start predicting the next scandal before it even lands. And Chrisean Rock, whether she realizes it or not, is the metronome that keeps the whole operation ticking on time. Okay, so now the lie detector. Because we have to talk about this lie detector. We have to sit with it. We have to examine it. We have to autopsy every single frame of it. The examiner Chrisean Rock used was a man by the name of John Grogan. Now Grogan has been quietly working the polygraph circuit for years, popping up in creator-influencer content from Shane to Jason to David, and every single one of those creators has openly admitted the same thing on camera. Grogan tells you what to say. Grogan asks you what answer you want. Grogan will feed you the yes or the no depending on what makes better content. That is not a rumor. That is not a smear. That is on camera, in their own words, from multiple creators who sat in that same chair before Chrisean Rock ever did. So when Chrisean Rock sat down and got asked, and I quote, "Did you see another man in November and have sex with him besides Jonathan Porter?" And she looked into that camera stone-faced and said no. And the machine allegedly flashed green like she had passed with flying colors. That green light was worth exactly what the paycheck told it to be worth. Nothing. Zero. Not a single ounce of evidentiary weight. Not a single grain of forensic value. Not a single molecule of what any real courtroom, any real judge, or any real family law attorney would even glance at for half a second. And here is where it gets even worse. Grogan's credentials themselves are under scrutiny. His 2004 training certificate from a body called ACFs was described by the actual owner of that institution as fictional. Fictional. That word matters. That word means the paper he is waving around is a piece of paper. That word means it holds no more scientific weight than a laminated bookmark from a public library. That word means anyone in the country with a working printer could have manufactured a more legitimate credential in the amount of time it took Chrisean Rock to walk from the makeup chair to the interview couch. That word means the entire foundation of everything Chrisean Rock just publicly staked her reputation on is standing on quicksand. That word means the entire episode was, from top to bottom, a performance dressed up as science, a paycheck dressed up as a verdict, a Zeus Network segment dressed up as evidence, and Chrisean Rock knew it, Blueface knew it. And the polygraph man himself knew it before the first electrode was ever clipped to Chrisean Rock's fingertip. And Chrisean Rock knows. Chrisean Rock has to know. Because Blueface knows. Blueface has already publicly said the entire test was staged, that the Zeus Network paid $100,000 to make it happen, that the whole thing was manufactured for the season, for the ratings, for the algorithm. And what does Chrisean Rock do in response? Chrisean Rock says nothing. Chrisean Rock does not sue. Chrisean Rock does not correct. Chrisean Rock does not demand a retest with an independent lab. Chrisean Rock does not walk into a legitimate examiner's office in Los Angeles or Miami and put herself on record with somebody whose license is real, whose certificate is real, whose reputation is real. Chrisean Rock just goes back to her stream and keeps riding the wave because Chrisean Rock understands, better than anyone in her orbit, that the lie is the product. The lie is the paycheck. The lie is the whole entire brand. If Chrisean Rock ever told the truth, the whole ecosystem would collapse in on itself like a black hole. And Chrisean Rock is not about to be the person to pull the plug on the biggest paycheck of her life. That is the calculation. That is the arithmetic. That is the cold, unblinking math sitting underneath every single decision Chrisean Rock has made on camera for the last 3 years. And once you accept that this is the math, everything else in her behavior suddenly makes a horrible kind of sense. Now let's talk about Junior. Because we are not going to skate past this. We are not going to let this one slip through the cracks. We are not going to be the channel that saw the footage, knew what it meant, and pretended we did not. There is a clip that has been circulating this week that every single person who has ever loved a child needs to sit down and watch. In the footage, little Junior, 4 years old, for years old, let me say that again, for years old, is walking down a staircase inside Blueface's house. Blueface is standing right behind him. Blueface lifts his right leg. Blueface makes a small vocal noise. Almost a grunt. Almost like he is bracing himself for the act he is about to commit. And then Blueface kicks that baby down the stairs. On camera. In his own house. On his own stream. with his own logo in the corner of the frame. While Chrisean Rock stands there, belly out to here, watching the whole thing unfold in real time. And you know what Chrisean Rock does? Chrisean Rock does not scream. Chrisean Rock does not run over. Chrisean Rock does not pick that baby up. Chrisean Rock does not shove Blueface. Chrisean Rock does not curse him out. Chrisean Rock just stands there. Just stands there. Blank face. Dead eyes. Flat mouth. Because Chrisean Rock has already made her calculation. Chrisean Rock has already decided that the stream must continue. Chrisean Rock has already agreed, silently, tacitly, day after day after day, to whatever version of parenthood this palace of the circus tent has become. And Blueface? Blueface is laughing. Blueface is on his phone. Blueface is grinning at the chat like he just landed a joke. That is Blueface. That is who Blueface is. That is the man who was once considered a rising West Coast rap talent, once compared to E40 and Suga Free, once positioned as the next generation of Los Angeles hip-hop. And that is the man that Blueface has decided to become in front of the entire internet. And the worst part, the part that keeps me up at night, is that Blueface knows the camera is rolling. Blueface knows every second of that footage is being uploaded, screen recorded, clipped, and archived. Blueface knows every child protective services agency in California could open a case file on this footage tomorrow morning if enough pressure was applied. Blueface does not care. Blueface has decided that content is content, that engagement is engagement, and that little Junior's small body tumbling down a flight of stairs is worth exactly one more day of kick streams and one more month of Zeus checks. Because that is how deep this rock goes. Because that is how far gone Blueface is. Because that is what happens when a man is handed unlimited attention, unlimited money, and zero accountability, and you leave him alone with a live camera and a toddler in the same room. That is the recipe. That has always been the recipe. And the moment somebody in a position of real power decides to actually do something about that recipe, this entire circus is going to fold up its tent overnight. Now walk it off. Grow up. There is no version of this that is okay. There is no reading of this footage that is playful. There is no world in which a grown man kicks a toddler down a flight of stairs and the internet says, well, boys will be boys. Blueface has target after target after target painted on his back right now, and the people painting those targets are not just internet commentators. They are law enforcement. They are child protective services. They are the mothers of the children of the men in his own inner circle. There is a woman by the name of Betty Wham who has publicly made noise about the way Junior is being treated. And when a name like that surfaces, when a voice like that raises up, Blueface should be doing a lot less streaming and a lot more listening. But Blueface is not listening. Blueface is packing a bag. Blueface is heading to the airport. Blueface is boarding a plane out of town this weekend, and every single one of us watching knows exactly what that means. It means Blueface has a Rashawn to see. It means Chrisean Rock, 1 centimeter dilated, is at home dialing 911 in her head, wondering if the next time she sees the father of her child, she should call the police first or the paparazzi first. It means the entire cycle is about to reset, and by Tuesday morning we are going to be back on this channel breaking down the same predictable storyline dressed in a slightly different outfit. Same script. Same actors. Same emotional beats. Same manufactured outrage. Same monetized reconciliation. It is a play the two of them have been running for so long that the choreography has become second nature to both of them. And Chrisean Rock has been through this exact cycle before. Chrisean Rock has streamed the promise. Chrisean Rock has cried the tears. Chrisean Rock has recorded the tearful apology videos. Chrisean Rock has told Junior, on camera, you don't need a babysitter, you just need me, I'm never going to leave you again. And by Wednesday? By Wednesday, Chrisean Rock is back on her stream, back on her regimen, back on her supposed pro boxing training schedule, back to pretending that this weekend, this specific weekend, did not happen. And Blueface loves it. Blueface finds it hilarious. Blueface treats every single thing Chrisean Rock swears she is going to do as a personal challenge to prove her wrong. That is not a relationship. That is not a love story. That is not two people building a family together. That is a hostage negotiation being broadcast live for a small monthly subscription fee. That is a psychological trap dressed up as a romance. That is a business partnership between two people who cannot afford, financially or emotionally, to walk away from each other, because the second they do, the entire ecosystem they have built collapses into the ground. Okay, so the third man. We have to talk about the third man. Because in the last few months, 3 separate individuals have publicly stepped forward and said, that baby inside Chrisean Rock might be my child. 3. And these are not internet trolls. These are not anonymous accounts. These are not throwaway burner pages posting from a basement somewhere. These are named individuals with photographs and, in some cases, receipts of time-stamped contact with Chrisean Rock during the exact narrow window in which that baby was conceived. There is a man who sat down on a podcast this week and broke out the math. He pulled up ChatGPT on camera. He asked the timeline questions. He crunched the numbers. He looked at the calendar dates that Chrisean Rock herself has publicly confirmed in her own words on her own streams. And the numbers do not lie the way Chrisean Rock lies. The numbers say that if Blueface got home from prison on November 3rd, and if the last time Chrisean Rock and Blueface slept together was November 15th or 16th, then the due date on that baby should be somewhere around August 9th. And Chrisean Rock is currently dilating 1 full centimeter early. 1 centimeter. Right on schedule. Which either means that baby is coming exactly on Blueface timeline, or, more likely, given the math and the mouths involved, that baby was conceived weeks earlier than Chrisean Rock has told the public, which would mean the father is not Blueface at all. Which would mean the entire storyline Chrisean Rock has been publicly selling for the last 8 months has been, from day one, a load of cinematic fiction with a due date attached to it. And here is where the circus tips over into the surreal. Because Chrisean Rock, in the middle of all of this, is holding a public feud with Jaden Alexis over a leaked adult tape that dropped a few weeks back. And Chrisean Rock, this is the part you have to hear, Chrisean Rock has been openly discussing the contents of that tape on her own stream. Discussing them. Analyzing them. Referencing them. Playing back frames of it. Which is behavior that no woman I have ever met would engage in unless she had a very specific reason to. Unless she had a very specific angle. Unless she was, on some level, trying to convince the audience that her rival was the one who leaked the footage in the first place, when the mathematics of who benefited from that leak point in a very different direction. And now Jaden Alexis's best friend Sam has jumped on stream, taken up the microphone, and started defending Jaden Alexis's honor like she is the appointed public relations officer of a small country. Sam is out here explaining. Sam is out here narrating. Sam is out here trying to reframe the leak, spin the narrative, and drag Chrisean Rock right back into the middle of the story. And nobody in the entire internet ordered Sam to do this. Jaden Alexis did not authorize a spokesperson. Jaden Alexis has her own mouth. Jaden Alexis knows how to log onto her own stream. So why is Sam out here doing the work that Jaden Alexis will not do herself? Because Sam has been waiting years for a moment this big, and Sam is going to milk that moment for every last drop of engagement it will produce. That is the entire economy this whole freak show runs on. Everybody has a mic. Everybody has a camera. Everybody has an angle. Nobody has any shame. Nobody has any grace. Nobody has any respect for the actual human beings, including a 4-year-old boy and an unborn baby, who are collateral damage in the middle of the whole entire operation. Now let me pause and ask you something real quick. Because we are halfway through this thing, and I want to hear from you. Do you believe Chrisean Rock actually knows who the father of that baby is? Do you believe Blueface has any interest in finding out? And do you believe that a paternity test, when it finally comes, will be treated as evidence or as one more piece of streaming content to be monetized, edited, teased, and dragged out over 3 seasons of a Zeus reality show? Drop every single thought you got in that comment box right now. Because the loudest voices in that comment section are the ones this algorithm is going to pump straight into every recommended feed on this platform. And I want to know where you stand. Because this is not just a rap industry story. This is not just a reality TV story. This is a story about a live streaming ecosystem that is quietly becoming one of the most dangerous environments for children in the entire attention economy. And if the people watching this video right now do not start pushing back, nobody else is going to. Now let's rewind. Let's rewind to a story that has been quietly gaining traction while everyone was looking at the polygraph and the paternity mess. There is a young woman who has been making rounds on interviews for weeks, and she is making a claim that everybody in the culture needs to hear. She was allegedly close to Ronnie Jr.'s alleged biological father before Ronnie passed away last year. And she is saying on camera, in her own words, that Ronnie confided in her that he was receiving death threats. Not from the streets. Not from random enemies. Not from stray internet trolls. From Chrisean Rock and members of Chrisean Rock's own family. She is saying Ronnie was so afraid for his life that plane tickets had to be purchased for him. She is saying Ronnie was flown out of state on more than one occasion because the threats were that specific and that credible. She is saying that Ronnie confided in her that he had gotten his pages taken. She is saying that Ronnie had been doxxed. She is saying that Ronnie was, in her exact words, in fear for his life from Chrisean Rock and Chrisean Rock's family specifically, and no one else. And she is saying that when Ronnie's fame started to grow, when the Tasha K interview dropped, when the world started paying attention to what Ronnie had to say about that little boy and about whether Junior was actually his son, the threats escalated. And then Ronnie was gone. Now I want to be very careful here. I am not accusing anyone of a crime. I am not making an allegation the courts have not already examined. I am not saying anything that goes beyond what this young woman has publicly said on the record herself. But I am telling you what this young woman is saying, and I am telling you that the police, according to her own testimony, have already come to her door and asked her questions about what she knows. That is a fact. That is a fact that is publicly on the timeline. And when you place that fact next to the footage of Blueface kicking Junior down a flight of stairs, and you place both of those next to Chrisean Rock's dead-eyed silence while it happened, a very disturbing picture begins to assemble itself. A very disturbing picture that no polygraph paycheck, no Zeus Network storyline, and no Kick stream monetization deal is ever going to be able to unpaint. A very disturbing picture that the culture, at some point in the very near future, is going to have to stop pretending it cannot see. Okay, so what I want to do next is diagnose something. Because I have been watching this circus for years now, I have been documenting it every single week. I have been sitting through every stream, every clip, every leaked screenshot, every teary apology, every triumphant comeback, every scripted reunion, every staged breakup, and I have started to notice a pattern that I think deserves a name. I am not a psychologist. I do not hold a clinical degree. But if I were writing a paper, a full-length, peer-reviewed, footnoted academic paper on the psychology of this fandom, I would call the condition I am about to describe circus devotion disorder. And the symptoms go like this. Symptom 1, the sufferer cannot stop watching. Symptom 2, the sufferer knows the show is bad for them and watches anyway. Symptom 3, the sufferer defends the participants when outsiders criticize the behavior, even when the participants themselves have already admitted the behavior on camera. Symptom 4, the sufferer sends money, either through subscriptions, through pay-per-views, through merch drops, through gifted subs on Kick, through Zeus renewals, and does so despite knowing that money will be spent on the exact same chaos the sufferer claims to be tired of. Symptom 5, the sufferer knows Junior is not okay. Knows it, sees it, and keeps watching anyway. Because the sufferer has convinced themselves that watching is a form of witnessing, and witnessing is a form of caring, and caring is a form of protection. It is not. Watching Junior get kicked down a flight of stairs does not protect Junior. Sharing the clip does not protect Junior. Commenting outrage under the clip does not protect Junior. Retweeting the screenshot does not protect Junior. Making a stitch on TikTok does not protect Junior. The only thing that protects Junior is somebody with actual legal authority stepping in and pulling that child out of that house. Full stop. Period. End of paragraph. And now let's talk about who is being paid. Because that is the real story. That is the story underneath the story. That is the engine under the hood of this entire operation. Chrisean Rock is being paid. Blueface is being paid. Jaden Alexis is being paid. Sam is trying to get paid. Every clip merchant harvesting these streams is being paid. Every reaction channel feasting on this footage is being paid. The Zeus network is being paid. The Kick executives who look the other way while a toddler gets kicked down a staircase on their platform are being paid. The polygraph examiner with the fictional credentials is being paid. The lawyers on retainer are being paid. The publicists spinning the narrative in the tabloids are being paid. Everybody in this ecosystem, everybody, is cashing a check while a 4-year-old boy grows up in an environment that no Child Protective Services agency in America should be tolerating for another 24 hours. And the reason the check keeps clearing? The reason the checks keep clearing is because you and I keep clicking. That is the truth. That is the ugly truth. That is the truth that circus devotion disorder does not want you to face. Every time a clip goes viral, the ecosystem gets fed. Every time a live stream trends, the ecosystem gets fed. Every time a paternity rumor sparks a discourse cycle, the ecosystem gets fed. Every time somebody screenshots a receipt and drops it into a group chat, the ecosystem gets fed. And the ecosystem is not going to stop feeding itself until the audience, until you, until me, until every single one of us watching this video right now stops handing it a plate. Let me be very clear about something else. Blueface does not love Chrisean Rock. Blueface loves the show. Blueface loves the leverage. Blueface loves the algorithmic gravity that Chrisean Rock gives him every single time she cries on camera, every single time she calls the police, every single time she posts a threat, every single time she takes another polygraph, every single time she says, "I am never leaving him this time." Every single one of those moments is content. Every single one of those moments is a kick trend. Every single one of those moments is a Zeus preview clip. Every single one of those moments pays Blueface bills. And here is the part that Chrisean Rock cannot admit to herself, because if Chrisean Rock admitted this to herself, the whole structure would collapse. The man Chrisean Rock has built her entire adult life around is more affectionate with her son than he is with her. Read that sentence twice. Blueface treats Junior with more visible tenderness than Blueface treats Chrisean Rock. On stream. In footage. Repeatedly. And Chrisean Rock watches it, absorbs it, processes it, and stays. Because leaving would mean losing the story. And losing the story would mean losing the check. And losing the check would mean losing the entire identity Chrisean Rock has constructed for herself in front of a global audience of millions. That is the trap. That is the whole trap. That is the trap the entire audience is watching Chrisean Rock walk deeper into, 1 week at a time, one stream at a time, one manufactured heartbreak at a time. And nobody in her inner circle is ever going to sound the alarm loud enough to break through, because everybody in her inner circle is on the same payroll as she is. Now the third baby daddy. The man who sat down this week and made the paternity claim on video, do we believe him? Do we not believe him? Personally, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. Personally, I think there is enough smoke around this pregnancy that Chrisean Rock owes the audience she has cultivated a real answer. Not a Zeus test. Not a Grogan polygraph. Not a cinematic reality show reveal with a slow zoom and a musical sting. A real, court-admissible, hospital-conducted paternity test the moment that baby is born, notarized, signed, sealed, and delivered by a lab whose license is not fictional. And I do not believe Chrisean Rock will submit to one. And I do not believe Blueface will demand one. Because the moment the paternity is confirmed, one way or the other, one of the two most valuable open storylines in this entire streaming ecosystem collapses. And they cannot afford that. Nobody in this economy can afford that. Which means, as of the recording of this video, the baby that is 1 centimeter away from entering the world may very well grow up not knowing, with certainty, who the man in the delivery room photograph actually is. And that, to me, is the saddest part of this entire circus. That, to me, is the sentence that should keep every adult in that household up at 3 in the morning staring at the ceiling. That, to me, is the moral center of everything we are talking about tonight. Now let me toss you one more piece of tea before we close this out. Because a lot of you have been asking about Clarissa. A lot of you have been asking about the upcoming fight. And I want to say very clearly, I am watching that fight. I will be watching that fight next week. Clarissa dropped 20 pounds for that weigh-in. 20 pounds. Do you have any idea how much discipline that takes? Do you have any idea how much sacrifice that represents? Clarissa sat down with Cam Newton for a full interview that I am going to break down for you, sentence by sentence, in an entirely separate video that is dropping in the next few days. So if you have not subscribed yet, if you have not turned on that little notification bell, now is the moment. Because when Clarissa steps into that ring next week, and when Chrisean Rock's alleged pro-boxing career finally gets a real competitive benchmark to be measured against, the entire narrative that this circus has been selling about Chrisean Rock being a legitimate athlete is going to face its very first real stress test. And I am going to be right here in your ear, walking you through every single second of it. Every single jab. Every single hook. Every single moment of the 10-second countdown between rounds. Because that is what real coverage looks like. Not the theater. Not the pageantry. Not the pay-per-view spin. The actual sport. But before we get there, before we get to Clarissa, before we get to the fight, before we get to whatever the next scandal is going to be that this circus generates between now and next Saturday, the story we are watching unfold in real time is the story of a 4-year-old boy who is being raised, right now, in a house where the adults have decided that his safety is a lower priority than their monetization strategy. And the curtain is coming down on that arrangement. It is. Whether it comes down through a subpoena, whether it comes down through a court filing, whether it comes down through a child protective services intervention, whether it comes down through a paternity test result that finally cracks this whole thing wide open in front of the entire world, or whether it comes down through the simple, slow-motion collapse of an audience that has finally, after years of being fed the same recycled storylines, had enough. The curtain is coming down. It is only a matter of time. The only question left is which one of the participants in this circus is going to be standing under it when it falls. Which one of them is going to be the last cast member on the stage when the lights finally cut off. Which one of them is going to be the face on the tabloid cover when the entire operation is finally exposed for what it has been from the very beginning. And I want to say one more thing before we get to the CTA, because if I do not say it, nobody else on this platform is going to. This is not entertainment. This has never been entertainment. What we have been watching for the last 3, 4, 5 years is not a reality show. It is not a soap opera. It is not a hip-hop novella. It is a slow-motion documentation of a household in crisis, being filmed in real time, monetized in real time, and broadcast to millions of people who have collectively decided that the trauma of a small handful of adults and one small child is a perfectly acceptable form of content to consume on their lunch breaks. That is what we have all been doing. Myself included. This channel included. And the only thing that separates a channel like this one from every other clip factory harvesting this footage for engagement is the willingness to occasionally stop, take a breath, and say out loud what everybody watching already knows in their gut. Which is that this is not okay. That this has never been okay. That the very fact this footage exists on the internet at all is a moral failure of the platforms that host it, of the network that produces it, of the influencers who amplify it, and, yes, of the audience, including this audience, that keeps handing over the attention that funds the whole thing. So drop every single thought you got in that comment box below. Tell me who you think the father is. Tell me whether you believe the polygraph. Tell me whether Chrisean Rock is a victim, a villain, or something in between. Tell me whether Blueface deserves to keep custody of Junior for one more day. Tell me whether you are ready to stop clicking on this circus, or whether circus devotion disorder has got you locked in for the next 3 seasons. Tell me what you think Ronnie was trying to say before he was silenced. Tell me whether the third baby daddy is credible or a clout chaser. Tell me whether Jaden Alexis is a victim of Chrisean Rock, or whether Chrisean Rock is a victim of Blueface, or whether, and this is the answer I am starting to suspect is the correct one, every single adult in this scenario is a victim of the same broken incentive structure that has turned the American attention economy into a pipeline that manufactures human suffering at industrial scale. Because I read every single comment. Every single one. And the loudest voices in that comment section are the ones the algorithm is going to pump into every recommended feed on this platform for the rest of the week. So make your voice loud. Make your voice heard. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Because the next video I am dropping is a full breakdown of the Clarissa vs. Chrisean Rock fight card and everything you need to know before that first bell rings. I promise you, you are not going to want to miss it. The circus is not over. The circus is only just getting started. And I am going to be right here, every single day, cutting through the noise, cutting through the spin, cutting through the paid-for polygraph theater, and telling you the truth that nobody else on this platform has the spine to say out loud. See you in the next one.